Zach, we've talked a lot about Troy's offense, but their defense maybe not as much. What do you see from those guys?
Yeah, they've got a really good defense. They've got a veteran secondary and a lot of experience, between those guys. I'm sure they've worked well all off season, and they'll be ready for us.
What do you think enabled their defense? I think they were number 2 in the country. They had 22 picks, and a lot of those guys are returning. What is it about them, and what do you have to do to prevent them from being aggressive and getting those picks this time?
We just got to be sharp with what we're doing and be crisp in our routes and crisp in our decisions, at the quarterback position. And really at this point, game one, you're not as worried about the opposing defense, and you're more worried about your operation and what you're putting in, and making sure all the focus is on what we're doing on a day-to-day, so that we're sharp and crisp, and it usually develops well after that if you can put all those pieces together. So yes, they do have a great secondary. They got a good Mike linebacker, and it's a sound defense. Obviously, they won a lot of football games last year. But again, most of our emphasis is on our focus and what we're doing in our preparation.
We talked to Jake Rowe on Monday, and what sort of a difference does it make having him in the fold and him being healthy this year?
Yeah, Jake's a phenomenal player, and it'll be fun having him as a little bit more of a role, going into this year. And all of our guys have stepped up, and it'll be fun seeing some young guys. It'll be fun seeing it's obviously Seth out there, doing what he does, and putting all the pieces together. And that's the fun part of getting out of fall camp and getting into game week, and now you're personnelling some more things and trying to find ways to get guys involved.
Statistically, for most of the year, you guys were top 5 in red zone efficiency in terms of touchdowns last year until those last 2 games. And you could say that's maybe the biggest reason why you guys lost those 2 games. How did you think overall last year that was? And is that an emphasis, or do you look at the first 11 games and just think the last 2 were just kind of, you throw those out? Or how do you look at the red zone efficiency?
That was definitely an emphasis for us going into the spring and into the off season. And so you definitely don't look past that, the last few games where we struggled a little bit in the red zone. And so that, I know Brett was focused on some of his decision-making down there, and we were focused on some new things down in there too, and not being so predictable. But, overall, there was a lot of different pieces coming off of last year that they were really focused on, through the fall, through the summer and through the spring. So, but that was one of those.
How have you seen the wide receiver group? We've asked about those guys, and some of the names come up, and I think maybe it's a wait and see with some of that. But how those guys stepped up, and how confident do you feel that those guys will do that and right away?
Yeah, no, that's a great group. And Coach Keesaw has done a phenomenal job, moving those guys along. And even though some of them haven't had the reps or the experience, they're confident going into game one. And that's the progression that we want to see. And I feel very confident, and I know Coach Keesaw feels very confident in putting any of those guys in the game and letting them go. And after game one, we'll be able to evaluate and see who could handle some of the install and who couldn't, and we'll adjust and modify from there.
How much with running backs and receivers does the playing time will get dictated as the game goes along, especially the first game? Because a lot of guys that really haven't had a long track record of being out there in games.
Sure. We're kind of taking the same stand with the running back position. We expect and feel comfortable with all those guys being able to get in the game. We want to see them all and see what they can do on game day and see how they handle some of the adversity and that game day feel.
Who takes your first snap at running back?
Not sure. We'll see. We're not quite to game day yet.
You had the or there on the depth chart with Wolpen and Madison. Is it fair to say? Obviously both those guys are going to play big roles for you.
They will. Yeah. No, they're both very good backs, and we have confidence in both of them, and they're going to both have impacts in the game.
With Wolpen, I know going into the fall, Lee said, "Hey, we're going to start him at number 1, and basically give him a chance to stay there." What has he done to prove during fall camp that he is a guy that deserves serious action?
He is a very hard worker. He's going to know what's going on, so you trust putting him in any situation. He's a physical kid, even being a little bit smaller in stature. And he just has that mentality, and that he's going to go get it done, and so he's been very consistent, and really enjoyed seeing him through fall camp, and can't wait to see him in game one.
Zach, how do you anticipate game day being a little bit different for you maybe this year, calling plays and Are you excited to finally get up there and try to get in a rhythm?
Yeah, it'll be a blast. Yeah, no, it's a great opportunity, and I'm definitely excited to have that role and be able to manage that game and move forward with it, learn from it as well.
Do those 3 hours or 3.5 hours, I mean, do they become a little bit more stressful? I mean, actually having to, weed through it all and play that chess game yourself?
Yeah, that's the fun part of the job, though, game day, and that's what you're looking forward to, and being able to have an impact in calling plays and being able to kind of piece things together, and hopefully it works out the way you want it and the way you visualize it going into that game. And at the end of the day, we're preparing them to go execute whatever's called. So we feel confident in all the plays that we've got in this week, and it's just time to go execute. And really you got to have that mentality, whether it's a play caller or a player, that hey, this is game day. It's Christmas. This is what we're practicing for every day. And so yeah, is there stress? Is there some adversity? Is it going to go well? Is it going to go bad? All that stuff that you're juggling, within drives. And but you just got to take it in stride, and that's again part of the job.